Fabulous. All right, let's try this again. Let's see if this works any better. No. Wonderful. Sorry, folks, I'm experiencing technical difficulties. One moment here, and we will get started. We're going to go live in just a second. We're just waiting on Facebook right now. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and get started anyway, and Facebook can go ahead and catch up to us. So here we go. Welcome to Standing on the Edge. I am your host, Randy Soplata. Today is Friday, October 28th, and today we will talk about The Tax Man Cometh. On the edge of the coin. We also have the topic of the number 3 thing you absolutely need to learn during Think Like the Rich. And today's personal story will be, how do I become successful? All of this coming up today. One second here. Finally, we'll finish off the show with what would happen if, as always. So once again, I'm your host, Randy Soplata. Today's October 28th. Today we will be talking about The Tax Man Cometh on the Edge of the Coin. We also have the topic of the number 3 thing you absolutely need to learn during Think Like the Rich. And today's personal story will be, how do I become successful? Finally, we'll finish off the show with what would happen if. Now, I do have the name of the new show. All of you have gone ahead and given me suggestions, and I appreciate that. So we're going to be going ahead and revealing that, but it's not going to be till the end of the show, so stick with me till the end for the great reveal. You are listening to Standing on the Edge. When we come back, it's time for the edge of the coin here on Standing on the Edge. And welcome back to the show. The Edge of the Coin is brought to you by the CS Media Group. We provide the outstanding talent and you get the extraordinary entertainment. The Edge of the Coin is a segment that shows us a way of opening up our mindsets to allow us to explore any situation on both sides. We're going to go ahead and jump into today's topic, which is the tax man cometh. The tax man cometh. Now, I do this particular episode several times throughout the year. It just depends on what is going on. Right now, we're coming up to the end of the year. Basically, we are sitting at the end of November. The end of October, pushing into November. The 31st, Halloween, is going to be on Sunday. And so we are going ahead and making sure we're talking about taxes now, because it's best to go ahead and do the preparation for the taxes earlier rather than later. And if you have your own business, which is always a good thing as well. I'm sorry, I'm trying to level this here. If you have your own business, then you want to go ahead and start thinking now towards the end of the year rather than later on once the year finishes off, so that you can go ahead and get together with your tax accountant or with your CPA or whoever it is that you've got that's going ahead and helping you along with your planning for the next year. If you wait until the year's already done, then there's so many things you could have gone ahead and caught up on or been able to go ahead and work with prior to that. So you definitely want to go ahead and work with your planner prior to the end of the year. And it's always best to go ahead and give them a month or two to go ahead and start getting things into motion to be able to get into that. All right. So the tax man cometh. Here's the big thing that I want you to remember, okay? Taxes are important, but they're not the whole picture. Taxes are important, but they're not the whole picture. Let me say that again, okay? The interesting thing about this is that when you are talking to your CPA, when you're talking to your professionals, your tax professional, and doing this, then the biggest thing for you is to realize that you want to prepare for what's going on. You want to be prepared for the next set of events. You want to be prepared for the next year. You want to be prepared for the next season that's coming up and getting ready to go ahead and do that. And the more you can do that, the better off and you will be when it comes to time to actually take care of your taxes first and foremost, but more importantly, in that you can go ahead and be prepared so much to the point that you might not have to worry about your taxes afterwards. In other words, they are already going ahead and giving you money, and you're prepared for that event as it comes up. Now, what am I talking about for this? Well, let's go over a typical scenario in most businesses that you can go ahead and do. Okay, if you have a legitimate business, and it doesn't matter what kind of business it is or what industry it's in, if you have a legitimate business, then most of the time you will be able to go ahead and claim mileage for your business purposes. You will be able to go ahead and claim some parts or some form, or even most for that matter, of eating out while you're in your businesses, as long as it's a business expense. You will be able to go ahead and claim any kind of travel that you do as long as it's used for the business. And you will be able to go ahead and use, of course, the expenses that you do on your business itself. Now, those are the four main categories that most people will go ahead and use. So we'll go ahead and continue doing that, okay? But if you go ahead and you say to your tax professional, I really want to go ahead and perform my business in a wonderful location outside of where I normally am. Now, I'm sitting just northwest of Atlanta, Georgia. So if I decided that I want to go ahead and do this particular show up in the mountains of Georgia and spend some time out there while I'm doing this and actually go ahead and do so, then my tax accountant might say, okay, great. Well, let's go ahead and start marketing ourselves to the people that are up there, see if they want to go ahead and join into the show as well, see if they want to go ahead and take care of this. We'll make sure we go ahead and include your mileage into this. We'll go ahead and make sure that anything that you have when it comes to spending money on your hotel and or your so on, whatever your expenses might be towards the show, included in that. As long as you go ahead and spend at least a certain amount of time doing it in that particular location. And bam, it's all paid for you right there, basically, because the government's going to say, yes, this is an allowable expense, and they'll give it back to you on your taxes whenever they happen to come about. Now, here's the other thing, the other flip side of that particular coin, which is this. If you have your own business, then you're going to see that, or you're going to know at least, hopefully, that there is more than one way to pay taxes. And you're right now probably going, wait a minute, I don't understand. Well, if you are a corporation or a S corporation or a partnership or something of that nature, then unless you go ahead and set things up in advance, you're going to have to pay your taxes quarterly. Now, whether or not you get a refund of that back quarterly, you will have to go ahead and ask your tax preparer. I do not believe so. I believe everything comes back once at the end of the year, but you have to give the government every quarter something that's going on. Now, if you've broken even or if you have paid out more money than you've collected in, then that means, of course, that you won't have to go ahead and pay taxes at that particular time. Everybody's circumstance is different, so you want to go ahead and make sure you get with your professional to let them tell you how it works in your circumstance. Okay? But you can go ahead and have all that ready to go. Whoops, 3 months is done. You got to the next quarter and moving on and going from there. The best thing you can do, and the only thing that I suggest, is to find a professional, okay? If you've never done it before and you're just starting off and it's a little podunk operation type thing, so meaning you're going ahead and selling to your own neighborhood or your, just a very, very tiny geographical location, and you're doing a service for what's going on, maybe dog walking around your neighborhood or something like that, then your normal accountants that go ahead and come along from H&R Block or any of the other services that happen to be about it, all the way down to the local tax man that happens around the corner, can go ahead and help you with this. But if you plan on taking that bigger, grander, better, many locations, so on and so forth, if you plan on expanding it in any way, then you need to go ahead and make sure that you're talking to your professional so they can help you get bigger and better and expand. You will not, let me repeat that, you will not stay with your same tax preparer for the rest of your life. It's not going to happen. Several things can go ahead and go wrong or change, as the case may be, while you're doing that, okay? When it comes to your business, however, here's the big thing for you, is that your business needs to grow. And if you're not paying less and less and less taxes every single year, or percentage-wise, that is, or you are keeping it basically at a break-even point, or even slightly going worse and worse and paying more taxes percentage-wise every single year, then you need to find an accountant or a CPA that does better than what you are doing. So eventually you're going to have to go from your H&R Block representative or your local tax man, or possibly your any of the other big block preparers that happen to go along with it. And you're going to have to go to somebody that specializes in your arena, specializes in your type of business. And the way to do that is just to go around and talk to people, okay? And ask them certain questions, okay? Now, they can't be very specific. They can't say, well, yeah, I go ahead and prepare taxes for Bernie Madoff, and he's the one that goes ahead and do this. It's against their ethical conditions, and they're not allowed to go ahead and do this, okay? Now, what they can do, and the questions you can ask, and one of the best things to go ahead and ask them is this: in your area of tax preparation, what type of client do you like to focus on? What kind of range of income do they normally make? Do they have their own businesses, or not, or are they just, or is it just a personal type tax preparation? These questions and types of questions which can go ahead and spur on to other things as well, are great ways to go ahead and start. So you definitely want to go ahead and do that, because here's the catch. If you come up straight away and go to Mr. Taxman, to the tax preparer, and say, hey, Mr. Tax Preparer, I'm thinking of starting a business for dog walking around my neighborhood, and I want to know what I can go ahead and do about this. Well, they're going to say, well, okay, that's great. I'm a professional at tax preparation for dog walkers. We can go ahead and take care of that and get you started as well. but you don't know if they are or if they're not. So you want to make sure beforehand that you find out the types of clientele that they normally would go ahead and do. If their normal type of clientele is somebody that has a trash collection service, and their service, their area that they're working at is all of that county, that parish, that particular designated area that they got, and they're working with hundreds of thousands of customers, and they come in with over $1 million of sales every single year, they're going to charge you and your little startup company dog walking like they would charge the trash company, and go from there. And it's going to be way too much for you. So find out first what's going on. At the same time, once you found that particular person, then you can ask them what's their favorite way to go about doing these things, and make sure you're compatible with them. For example, they might say, yes, I've taken several startup businesses that do little things, just people having side hustles and moving on from there. And so you can say, great, what's your favorite strategy to go on? How would you suggest moving on and growing the company, at least at first, to move on from there? And they can give you, and should probably go ahead and give you 2 or 3 ideas to begin with before they say, well, let's get you set up, let's do your taxes, and then I will tell you. Because if that's the case, they're just looking for a paycheck. Okay. Tax preparers, just like lawyers, just like any other type of advisor, insurance or otherwise, they're going to give you a certain amount of advice free. They're going to give you a certain amount of advice free. This is a great thing to have, because unless you have confidence in what their services will offer, there's no reason why they should go ahead and expect to be paid by you. Now, understand this too. The more specific that you get into certain types of vocabulary with this tax preparer could mean the difference, once again, between hurting and helping your business. Okay. So if you know a little bit of the language, and you've heard somebody say, well, yeah, we go ahead and have our taxes audited on a regular basis because we want to make sure that we're going to be ready if and when the government ever comes after us to go ahead and do that. And you think, oh, that's a great idea. I'll go ahead and talk to my tax preparation specialist and say, hey, what would it take to go ahead and do an audit on my particular business? And they would go ahead and charge you for quite a bit there, because an audit is not necessarily what you're looking for. An audit is a true audit, meaning they're going through every single line item piece that the company would normally need to go ahead and meet the specifications of the IRS, both at the state level and at the federal level. And they're going ahead and looking at everything with a fine-tooth comb. Now, if you don't know the terms, if you don't know the technology, if you don't know anything about this and you're just starting up, you don't want an audit. What you want is an analysis. You want the tax preparer to analyze what's going on. And this way, what they'll do is they'll be not just the tax preparer, but they will be the professor, the teacher, the mentor going on. And they'll say, well, this is what I see right now that your business is doing, good, bad, and otherwise. And they're not going to judge you. They're just going to go ahead and tell you this is like it is. And then they're going to say, if you continue in the direction you're going, this is very likely what's going to happen to your business and to you personally. If you go ahead and change in this particular direction, away from what you normally would do, then it's very likely that you would be in a better and or a worse position even than you are right there. And they will go ahead and help guide you along the way. They'll go ahead and get you to the next stepping stone, the next rung on that ladder, whatever analogy you want to go ahead and use it for. And they're going to go ahead and be in your corner rather than just going ahead and collecting a paycheck. Super, 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 super important. Super important. So you want to go ahead and make sure that you've got somebody on your side. Again, if you're just starting off, you don't know anything about this, then your normal tax preparation specialist, such as H&R Block, can go ahead and help you out a lot. By the way, I do not get a paycheck or an a stipend or any kind of kickbacks from H&R Block. I just happen to be using them for right now, just as this particular analogy. If you've got your brother-in-law or your sister-in-law that prepares taxes, and even if they're not necessarily a tax specialist, if they are a bookkeeper and know what's going on because they've done it before, great. They can help you get set up and moving on and better and better and better until it's time to go ahead and do this. But I want you to start thinking about it now, because once the end of the year has changed, whether it's the fiscal year, and if you've already got your own business, you know what I'm talking about, or it is the physical year. Sometimes they're both the same, but not necessarily always. But whether it's the fiscal and or the physical year, once you cross that deadline, whatever it might be, it's too late to go ahead and capture the benefits from the year that you are in now. And if you go ahead and let's say you've got 3 weeks before that deadline ends, and it's really, really quick, and you start talking to your CPA, or you start talking to your bookkeeper or something like that, and they say, hey, you know what, if you really want to go ahead and do this, let's get something started right now, even though you haven't made any sales, because then you can capture all of that great asset bonuses that you might have not been able to go and catch just by doing nothing but setting in motion the wheels, by getting prepared for this, by putting in certain types of paperwork. And you might have to pay a little more up front to begin with, but don't forget that 3-4 months later, you're going to collect that information, that bonus, that everything else that goes along with it from the IRS at April 15th, as you normally go ahead and do that. Now, of course, that's here in the United States. If you're in Canada or you're down under in Australia watching this, or you're somewhere else in maybe the Middle East or something like that, check your own country, because that particular government will have its own particular time and day to go ahead and do this. But if you start after the deadline has passed here in the United States, let's say that your physical deadline is December 31st. If you wait until January 1st to start that new business hustle, whatever it is, something like that, then you have to go ahead and wait that whole year to December 31st before you can then start filing to collect what's going on. And if you can go ahead and set things in motion 3 weeks in advance, 4 weeks in advance, 8 weeks in advance, and you can only collect $100, that's $100 more than you had to begin with, which is perfect for you. So it's always better to go ahead and start getting things set into motion. The quicker, the better. And of course, before the end of the deadline. Definitely something you want to go ahead and do. I highly recommend that you get to that point very quickly. You are listening to Standing on the Edge. When we come back, it's time to think like the rich here on Standing on the Edge. And welcome back to the show. Think Like the Rich is brought to you by Hers Decadence. Let's go ahead and put the thing back on. Welcome back to the show. Think Like the Rich is brought to you by Hers Decadence, offering luxurious refreshment for your body inside and out. You need to treat your body and that of your lover to a bit of luxury at Hers. Think Like the Rich is brought to you. It's a segment designed to help everyone think past their circumstances and encourage a different course of action. Today's topic is the number 3 thing that you absolutely need to learn. Now, if you've been with me so far at any point at all over the last few weeks, you will have learned, of course, that there are several things that you have to do. The first one that I said, the absolute number 1 thing you absolutely need to learn is that you have to learn how to sell. You got to learn how to sell. You always want to go ahead and be in a position where you are selling something, whether it's selling yourself, selling your services, selling your product, selling your whatever it might be. But you want to learn how to sell effectively. That's the first one. The second one is you want to go ahead and learn how to market. You've got to always attract customers at the same time, so you have customers to sell to, regardless of what it is. That's the number two. You absolutely the absolute thing that you need to learn. The number three thing you absolutely need to learn is what we will be covering today in this particular topic. And that is going to be this. You need to learn not just how to sell and how to bring people to you, but you need to go ahead and have the ability to get yourself in front of those people. So you need absolutely to learn public speaking skills. This will be your third most crucial thing to do. And right now, I know I've lost a lot of people going, oh, I could never do that. I can't do that. I get up on stage and I'm the most nervous thing that you could possibly see, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to just call bunk on you right there. I will. Why? Because I was the most nervous. I guarantee it. I tell you, when I got up for the first time on stage in front of a crowd, and it was a pretty decent sized crowd for me, to those of you that have done this before and you've heard the story, you'll be laughing again anyway. But I got up in front of a crowd of about 300 people. 300 people. To me, the biggest crowd that I've ever been in front of prior to that was around 50 people, and most of the time was less than 20. So yeah, I was kind of familiar with how to go ahead and get it, but 300 people, man, I was floored. Okay. I mean, I was on a ship at that point. We were at sea, and guess what? They had nowhere to go. So they came to see me. And I got up and I didn't walk across the stage. I vibrated across the stage. I did. I was not even standing still. I was going back and forth and back and forth, and my feet weren't moving. I was just bouncing back and forth because I was that nervous, literally. Okay. But guess what? I survived. I did. I survived because I learned very quickly that when they have come to see you, that means that they believe that you have something to offer them that they want, that they need. Let me repeat that. When you are in front of a crowd, they are already believing that you have something that they want and that they need. It's just up to you to deliver that. What an incredible way to look at this thing. And if what you have to offer them is something that you know changed your life somehow, some way, then that's even better, because now you can take that same information, that same wisdom, and impart it to them. So you absolutely got to go ahead and learn how to get up and get in front of a crowd of some sort. Now, this crowd does not necessarily have to be 300 people. It doesn't necessarily have to be 300 people. It doesn't necessarily have to be the 2 million people that I helped to go ahead and grow BFAM 109.6 to their listenership with. What it has to be, though, is more than 2. More than 2. Why? Because of this. And I've gone ahead and given you the idea as well beforehand that the more people you talk to, the more opportunity you've got to sell at the same time. Once again, the more people you talk to, the more opportunity you've got to sell to people what you have at the same time. So if you, let's go back to my situation, okay, on the ship. What was I doing at that point? I had already told people that I was a dance professional, that I was the one that was going to go ahead and teach them ballroom dancing while they were on board, and they were able to go ahead and utilize my services for free. Well, technically for free, because they'd already paid for the cruise to go ahead and do this. So I went ahead and offered it to them. And they believed that I was the professional. Why? Because I'd already gotten up on stage and told them that I was a professional. I was the one that they wanted to go ahead and learn from. So obviously, they wanted to find out, number one, if I absolutely was the professional that I said that I was, and number two, what they could learn from me. Okay. Well, they had nowhere else to go, so the professional was where they wanted to go to and see what was happening. And I had already been teaching ballroom dancing for several years at that point, and so I knew what it was that they needed to go ahead and start off with. So we all had a great time. We had an hour-long lesson. I taught them certain steps. Everybody was dancing in the aisles. We were just literally dancing to the music and having a great time. And then they could go ahead and use that same exact dance that I was teaching them that night at the captain's cocktail party and look like professionals themselves because they already had practiced it prior to the fact. So they had a wonderful time. I had a wonderful time. I learned that not only could I survive, but I enjoyed doing it. And they bought into what I had already told them. This is selling. Now, I didn't make a profit from that particular situation, but this is what I'm talking about. You place yourself in a position where you are the people, the one person that people want to come to. You put yourself in a position to where people believe that there's no better choice for them, and then you deliver your promises. Plain and simple. Now, what happens if you don't have these promises to be able to deliver? Or rather, you've already made promises and you can't make good on it. Well, you've just wasted a huge opportunity. You did. So you have to be prepared when you do this. And everything up to this point has been preparing for yourself. Now, let's go ahead and take that to a real life scenario, okay? Let's say that you want to go ahead and start up your business. And we'll use the dog walking business one more time, okay? Well, you can go ahead and do what most dog walkers do to go ahead and scare a business, which is, let's knock on the door, and you go ahead and say, hey, I have a dog walking business. I notice you have a dog. Would you be willing to go ahead and let me walk your dog for a certain amount of money? And at that point, the answer that they can give you is one of two, yes or no. And if they say yes, or before they say yes, they probably will say something such as, well, let me ask you a few questions because I don't know you from Adam. So you would then go ahead and say, well, I want to go ahead and charge you X amount of money for this, and I will go ahead and be willing to walk your dogs once, twice, 3 times a day, however much it might happen to be, or however many times a week that you want to go ahead and do it. And then they can go ahead and say, once again, yes or no. But you've pretty much backed yourself into a corner there, okay? Now, if, however, you know that there's going to be a dog contest being put on by some local area that's happening in your town. Let's go ahead and say that here in the northwest corner of Atlanta, where I go ahead and live, we're having a county service type production. Okay, they're going to have a dog show at the local arena that's going on that we have over here at Jim Miller Park. Then I can go ahead and start going up to, if I know it's coming up several months in advance, I can go up to the people that are putting on the show, or send them an email, or send them a letter, or give them a telephone call and say, hey, I have a dog walking business in the Cobb County area, specifically in the arena that is close to, or the area that is close to where you're putting on the show, and I want to go ahead and put on a little 15-minute talk 2, 3, 4 times during your show that will go ahead and show people the best ways to go ahead and walk their dogs, and then offer the chance to go ahead and walk their dogs for them for a specific price, and go ahead and do that. Well, then once again, you might get a yes or no, but 9 times out of 10, if you're going to go ahead and put on the talk, that helps out promoting the particular show that's going on, and they would be willing to go ahead and do this for you. Now, you might have to go ahead and pay a little bit of money to be able to get up in front of people to go ahead and do this. But guess what? You've put yourself already automatically in front of 1, 2, 3, 4,000 people at once that might be willing to go ahead and do it, or at the very least, a couple of 100 people that are up there and saying, hey, I didn't know that. That's some great things. And you know what? Since you put yourself up as a specialist in front of me already, that means that I'm already more inclined to work with you as a professional, because you have proved to me that you are willing to go ahead and get up and do this. Wow. This is an incredible thing. It really is. And yes, you might be nervous as hell. Yes, you might be stumbling and doing everything wrong that they talk about when it comes to public speaking, such as holding the microphone a little too far away, or keeping on pulling it back and forth, or moving or bouncing up and down, or trying to go ahead and fiddle with your hair like I do, or putting your hands in your pocket or something, or whatever it happens to be. But so what? Just the fact that you've gotten up there is going to distinguish you from the hundreds of others that might have been there. And here's the kicker too, okay? If you're on stage and they had to go ahead and pass 30 people that offer dog walking services prior to that, who are they going to go to? They're going to go to you. Why? Because you're the one that went ahead and put yourself outside of your comfort zone, outside of their comfort zone, and went ahead and told and marketed to so many other people that you are different than the other people that they had to go ahead and pass to get to you. Wow, what an incredible thing. I highly recommend that you absolutely learn this skill, okay? You don't have to be fabulous at it. You don't have to have the sexiest voice. You don't have to go ahead and be a certain height or a certain age, or be able to go ahead and sell thousands of dollars to do this, okay? As long as you get something more than what you may have paid in order to get yourself up in that area, then you are absolutely wonderful in your business, okay? And even if you break even, you're still doing better, because once again, it's an expense that you have paid that the government will reimburse you for at tax time. I mean, talk about a win-win-win situation. Let's say you have to go ahead and pay $100 to get up on stage in order to go ahead and give this talk for however many times it happens to be throughout the day. The first thing that happens is, number one, you're already getting the money back from the government, so you don't have to worry about it later on down the road. Secondly, if you get any business from it, then you've already won again, because you've won a second time, because those people are coming to you. Thirdly, you are practicing and getting better and better and better every single time you do it. Wow. I mean, this is just a better and better and better scenario every time you look at it. I definitely would say that if you've never done it before, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. If you've done it once or twice, you've got to keep on doing it. And if you already know how to do it, and you can get yourself up in front of larger and larger and larger crowds, then you will just make yourself into a better professional every single time. You are listening to Standing on the Edge. When we come back, it's time for Tales from the Edge here on Standing on the Edge. And welcome back to the show. Tales from the Edge is brought to you by the HRS Foundation, investing in future generations to ensure a better tomorrow. Tales from the Edge is a shared personal example of people and situations that I have experienced during my path to growing wealthy. Today's story is about how do I become successful? How do I become successful? How do I become successful? Now, I've done this exact same segment in several different guises throughout the last couple of years for BFAM 109.6 and for Standing on the Edge. But today I want to go ahead and remind you, we're going back to the different types of segments that we've had so far as well, which is learning how to speak publicly, how to go ahead and make sure you've got the right people on your team that's going on. How do you become successful? You go ahead and incorporate all of these things, all of the preparation that you've had to do, all of the ideas that make you better as a business person. You go ahead and learn how to put forth these ideas, suggestions, everything else that you've done beforehand by presenting it on stage in front of a crowd. You just keep doing these things over and over and over again, and you can't help to be successful. Thomas Edison, when he was inventing the particular filament that he had for his incandescent light bulb, went ahead and was accused by one of his lab members of failing so many times. And he came back and said, I have not failed. I have not failed. What I have done was learn so many different ways that it will not work in this scenario, in this situation. And therefore, I am closer to making it work and going from and being able to be successful in that endeavor. Now, you might not be willing to go ahead and learn how to make the next light bulb or the next light bulb work better. But if you are going ahead and taking your own business, your own specific service, whatever it happens to be, that's going to change the world or change your part of the world and make it a better place, and you go ahead and fail again and again and again and again, then just like Babe Ruth, get a smile on your face, push back and say, oh, great, I'm that much closer to getting that strike, getting that home run, to getting that hit, to getting that one big great idea that's going to go ahead and take me into the future and allow me to go ahead and make lots and lots and lots of money to be able to get and use to go farther and farther and farther than I have before. How do you become successful? You go ahead and do little steps. Little steps will get you to go ahead and doing that. I mean, who would have thought, literally, that you could go ahead and take a tin, which is basically just a bit of metal, that's going ahead and put it into a container and be able to go ahead and fill it with something. But then all of a sudden, it's, if it gets wet, there's nothing you can do it. So you got to have a cover. You've got to be able to go ahead and take your tin and be able to put anything that's inside of it, but be able to go ahead and use it. Well, okay, you might be able to cover it, but then guess what? It took a special person to go ahead and say, hey, let's put a hinge on this, and therefore we can go ahead and open it and close it at will and not have to worry about if we drop it, if it's going to go ahead and come open or not, as I just went ahead and did. And we're not going to have to worry about the fact that if we go ahead and turn it sideways, that things are going to go ahead and spill out because it's closed, or the seal might or might not be on it, because it's not going to drop off as we go ahead and take care of it. There's a lot of people that would never have thought of that in the first place. But the person that did went, hey, I can go ahead and use that and be able to go ahead and market this to the masses, to the crowds. Now, how do I go about doing that? How do I successfully take care of this? Well, you go ahead and you have to learn. You have to put yourself out there. You have to go ahead and be willing to make mistakes. You have to be able to go ahead and say to yourself and somebody else and everybody as well that, hey, I am the person to listen to. I've got something that nobody else has, and I've made it better than they have. And therefore, you can trust me, and I can go ahead and make your life better and easier, and a wonderful thing to have by having my product, my knowledge, my sweat and tears that I put into this particular thing, and I'm now presenting it to you, and you only have to pay $399 for it, and you only have to pay $39.99 for it, and you only have to pay $9.99 for it. It doesn't matter what it is or what the price is. If you've gone ahead and put yourself out there, then you're going to have three people out there, basically, or three types of people out there, I should say. You're going to have the people out there that are going to say, wow, this is great. I want this. I need this right now. And they pay you money for it. And you're going, wow, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. And then you got the people out there that are going, no, I really can't use that at all whatsoever. And they walk away and say, no, forget it. Not going to happen. I can't stand it. I don't need that, and you're going to have to go, okay, well, we're moving on. And then you got the people out there that are going, tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me why I need this, because I'm not convinced. And those are the people that you want to go ahead and focus on. How do you become successful? By doing just that. You go ahead and find the steps that you need to do. And you've made little successful steps, and you move on to the bigger step, and you go ahead and get bigger, and you get better, and you move on and work at it. And then you go ahead and do the same thing over and over and over and over again. And if that happens again and again and again and again, and you've gone ahead and got better, and you've incorporated the ideas that your people have gone ahead, your team members have gone ahead and given to you, and you're able to go ahead and create a crowd that wants to go ahead and listen to you, and you then put yourself in front of that crowd where so many other people wouldn't, and you've presented what you got in a way that people loved the fact that you went ahead and gave it to them, and you offer them this particular thing, and you say, and I'm going to go ahead and give it to you for a certain amount of money, and they can go ahead and then if you don't get it now, then you're going to have to wait until either I present it again or somebody else comes up with it, in which case it's going to take a long time to do it. Here's your chance. Go for it. Then you have become successful. And once again, even if they don't buy what you had to offer, you've still been successful because you've put yourself that much closer to the next sale. You've put yourself that much closer to the people that want it, that need it, that are willing to go ahead and get what you have and they want and need and are able to go ahead and use to make their life better. That's how you become successful. But the flip side's also true. If you decide that what you've got is just not worth your time and effort, if you decide that what you've got is not going to be worth getting up on stage to talk about, then you're not going to be successful. If you decide that what you've got is costing too much money, that people will never, ever, ever buy what you've got, then you're not going to be successful. I learned from my oldest daughter. I did. I can't believe it. And she will never believe that I'm actually saying this. But my oldest daughter went and did what I never thought would have been what I'd have been able to go ahead and do. Now, we're all artists in our family of some sort. Okay, I paint paintings, and I would never have been able to think that I could go ahead and sell my paintings for anything more than the cost of the canvas itself. My daughter went ahead and took an incredible thing. She took a piece of a very tiny bit of palette, okay, and she went ahead and made it into a little artistic board, and she spray painted it. And she put glitter and sprinkles and all kinds of other things that made it look pretty. And then she went ahead and took a Disney quotation, something like, let's say, for example, Genie, wake up and smell the hummus. And she said, this is what I will go ahead and give to you. You can put on any one of these things, and you can have it in these types of colors, and you can have it whether it's incandescent or if it's just a matte color. And you can go ahead and have this wonderful little thing. Excuse me. and it's going to be yours for $99. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, what an incredible thing. And then, which blew my mind, she found people immediately that would be willing to pay $99 for this particular thing. This talk about courage, talk about just being able to go ahead and have what she had and put it out to those people, and they were willing to go ahead and buy it, and then they bought it. Even better. I mean, incredibly enough, I couldn't believe it that this is what she went ahead and did. This is what she went ahead and wanted to do. And therefore, she went and did it. So how do you become successful? You just do it. You just practice it. You just keep on keeping on. And the better you get, the better you make up, and the more you continue doing it, the better off you will be. You are listening to Standing on the Edge. When we come back, it's time to close out the show with What Would Happen If here on Standing on the Edge. And welcome back to the show. What Would Happen If is brought to you by myself. Don't forget to call me at 470-554-2134 or send a text, or you can send an email to joinmeattheedge@gmail.com so you can go ahead and get the link to the GoFundMe page where I'm still offering to you to be a partial sponsor. $1 is all you have to go ahead and get into this to be a partial sponsor, and this can make you a fabulous part of my business on this particular show, Standing on the Edge. Today's topic for What Would Happen If is, where do I find the money? Where do I find the money? This is crucial. This is crucial because basically what's going to happen is this. You're going to have pretty much one of three ways you can go ahead and do this. You can either go ahead and spend your own money, which is called pay to play. And I've done this many, many times myself. In fact, for the whole first year and a half, I went ahead and funded my own show to be able to go ahead and get this out to you. I wanted to make sure that, because I thought it was so important, that I was going to go ahead and spend my own money to be able to get the benefits to you folks, fine folks out there. But now, the next thing is, where do I find the money? If you've got your particular thing, you want to go ahead and get it, and you know you're going to go ahead and give it to people, but you can't go ahead and work at it for the rest of your life, you've got to find somebody to go ahead and sponsor you. You've got to find people to go ahead and pay for your product, for your ideas, for your whatever it might happen to be. So where do I find the money? Well, I've already gone ahead and giving you some ideas, some arenas to go ahead and look into while you were doing this, okay? And here's the big thing. You can go ahead and do this in a great way, you can do this in a good way, and you can do this in a horrible way, okay? Now, once again, let's go ahead and go back to the dog walkers for a second, okay? What's the horrible way to go ahead and do it? Well, just to go ahead and hang up your shingle outside of your house and say, I walk dogs. Because that's going to get you pretty much nothing, okay? You might get it when, if the dog walkers come by and say, oh, wow, okay, he walks dogs. Maybe I can go ahead and get doing something like that. What's the good way to go ahead and do it? Well, you get out there and you start talking to people. You start going ahead and knocking on doors. Check, 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 check. There, this is what I do. I have a business card. I go ahead and hand it to you. If you want me to go ahead and walk your dog, I'll be willing to go ahead and do it. Well, that's a really good way to do it. What's a great way to do it? Well, you can go ahead and do like I do. You can go ahead and start putting out videos and marketing yourself to other areas rather than just your own little specific area. And you can say, well, I have this particular video and I go ahead and market this video to everybody in Cobb County, Georgia. And it's all the Cobb Countyans that I want to go ahead and talk to. And I go ahead and offer you this particular information. And this is how you can go ahead and do it. And that's great. But then you might or might not be able to go ahead and get the people that you want to go ahead and get. Okay. If you do it the great way, which is what I'm about to go ahead and tell you right now, and you've taken all of these things and you've gone ahead and put yourself now at the dog walking show, then you are much more likely to go ahead and get the people that you want to go ahead and get to. Why? Because the dog show is only drawing a certain type of clientele. The dog show is only drawing the people that are willing to spend more money than usual. Why? First off, because they probably had to pay tickets to be there. Second, because they're interested in different types of dogs and not just any dog, not just your typical mutt, not just your typical types of small dogs or whatever or something like that. They want to be interested in certain breeds, in certain pedigrees, in certain arenas to associate with the people that own those breeds, that own those pedigrees. And if you're putting yourself into that particular position, then you can command, let me say that again, you can command more and better prices for your particular service. Okay? And then if you put yourself up in front of the crowd, presenting something that would work well for those people, and then say, and by the way, not only do I do that particular thing, but I also offer these other helpful things in my business that I'm willing to go ahead and offer to you for the tiny price of, and then you offer your price. And that's how you go ahead and find the money. You've got to be able to put yourself into those arenas, into those positions, into the uncomfortable spaces that other people would not do and would not want and would not be willing to put forth. And therefore, then they will go ahead and be more willing to accept you as the expert and take their money, whether it's hard-earned or not, and give it to you. Now, it doesn't always mean that that's going to happen, but it definitely puts you in a better place. So once again, if you put yourself in that particular arena, then you're going to attract a certain type of clientele. Okay, so let's go ahead and say that the dog show is just for Cobb County. Well, if you want to go ahead and work only for Cobb County, then put yourself in front of the dog show in Cobb County. If you want to work to open yourself up into the state and be able to expand farther and farther and farther, well, then you want to go ahead and get into a different arena. You might want to go ahead and put yourself into the national dog show that happens to be in Atlanta, Georgia, and therefore you're able to go ahead and market yourself better to the state and coincidentally possibly into farther different types of arenas in different parts of the country. And then if you get yourself into the international dog shows, then you can go ahead and sell your product, your service, your whatever it is, not just to your tiny little community, but worldwide, because you are now an internationally acclaimed professional because you got up in front of people that were from other countries. They came in from Japan. They came in from South Korea. They came in from Australia. They came in from Canada. They came in from the Caribbean. They came in from England, from Europe. I mean, if they came into all of these areas and arenas from South Africa, and they came and you got in front of them, then you have just made yourself a professional worldwide. And you're able to go ahead and command even better prices and even better services to much better people. And you're able to go ahead and take that same thing and say, hey, by the way, I am looking to expand into your country. I'm looking to expand into your continent. I'm looking to expand into these things. Who do you know that can help me get into that arena? And then they can become part of your team, whether it's your marketing team and pass on your information to somebody else, or be able to go ahead and utilize their name to pass on to that particular person, so that you have now a warm lead, so to speak, or somebody that is going ahead and introducing you to the people that you need to know in that particular country. This is fabulous. And that's where you find the money. That's where you find the money. Now, you've been extremely patient and waiting. So now it is time for the great reveal, because I've been asking you all month long to go ahead and send me ideas and send me services, or send me different types of things for the brand new show that I want to go ahead and make up. The brand new show that I'll be making up, and it's going to be coming up in the air on air soon. I'm going to go ahead and utilize this show, however, to be pre-recorded and then put into the different platforms that we go ahead and have. This new show is going to be called It's a Dirty Business, but Someone Has to Do It. It's a dirty business, but someone has to do it. And I want to go ahead and once again feature different types of businesses that go ahead and do things and are successful that you might or might not have thought about. Okay, everybody thinks that successful businesses automatically have to be a doctor's office or a lawyer or an accountant, something of that nature. And that's great if you're white collar. But if you're blue collar and you've got a successful business, this is where I'm going to go ahead and focus. Okay, and I don't necessarily mean the trash collectors. That might be part of it right there. But have you ever thought about the people that pick up the poop behind the dogs? It's a dirty business, but somebody's got to do it, right? Have you ever thought about the people that make your manufacturing things, such as the die and the casters that go ahead and make the pipes that go ahead and get put into the box stores, the things that go into the buildings? It's a dirty business, but somebody's got to do it. So stay tuned to that, because we will be making sure to go ahead and start up those shows very soon. Here's a shout out to my sponsors. They are DJR Entertainment, DJR Enterprises, the CS Media Group, Hers Decadence, and HRS Foundations. My next show of Standing on the Edge is going to be November 4th, next Thursday, once again at noon, if at all possible. But until then, remember to expand your awareness. Think of something every day to help you on your own path. And hopefully soon, I'll see you joining me on the edge. Have a great weekend.